1292.
And welcome to the program. My name is Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. Thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate you being here. I am happy to be here on this beautiful Sunday night. We are live, which means that the phone lines are open. The numbers to call in I was going to say in North America. I'm used to doing that, but the numbers to call is 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. That is the number to call to be part of the Howie Silbiger Show. The Howie Silbiger Show is brought to you by Howie Silbiger, and this is the show that's brought to you by Howie Silbiger, and I am pleased to bring you the show. And I'm happy that you have decided to join me on this Sunday night. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and I know during this pandemic we are all sitting at home, and since we are sitting at home, it is important to be able to express ourselves, be able to talk about it, be able to understand what we're all going through the same thing all at the same time. And so it is very nice to be here with you. But, we talk about the pandemic a lot. On the last couple of shows, we've talked about the pandemic, and that's been a lot of pandemic talk. And I want to move on to other things because the world has not stopped because of this pandemic. The world has not stopped because COVID-19 has forced us to stay home, and things are going on in the world that we should be talking about. And so one of the things going on is this crazy thing called Nakba Day. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Nakba Day, it is the Arabs in Israel who call themselves Palestinians. They have a day, normally May 14th, May 15th, where they lament the creation of the state of Israel, where they curse the Israelis for having a state. And this is what they do. And so here we are. It was Nakba Day, and our favorite Israel-hating rock star decided to sing a song to celebrate Nakba Day and to give support to the Arabs who want to destroy the state of Israel. Of course, you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about our friend Roger Waters from Pink Floyd. And I just want to play you a little clip from that song because I think you should hear this. I think it's important to hear what Roger Waters has to say about Nakba Day. Here is Roger Waters.
And we'll walk hand in hand. We'll take back the land. We'll plant our olive trees from the Jordan River to the sea, and from Myanmar to...
All right, so we will take back the land, and we will plant our olive trees from the Jordan River to the seas. Essentially, what Roger Waters is saying is we will destroy the state of Israel, and we will supplant the state of Palestine over the state of Israel. That's what he's saying. That is exactly what Roger Waters is saying in that song. And he is calling for the destruction of the state of Israel. And like most of the Arab communities, most of the Palestinian communities, the destruction of the state of Israel also means the annihilation of the Jewish people living in Israel. In fact, the Hamas even called for the annihilation of Jews living outside of Israel. So here we have a situation where a major rock star, Roger Waters, and he's been doing this for years, is calling for the destruction of the state of Israel. Publicly, he released a video on YouTube calling for the destruction of the state of Israel and calling for the annihilation of the Jewish people. And yet I still have people telling me that I'm overreacting when I say that Roger Waters should be ignored. Well, ignored to a certain extent. We can't really ignore the fact that he's calling for our destruction. He should be answered. But he should not be celebrated, and we should not be. We should be protesting when he's hired to come and to perform in any venue in industrialized democratic society, because democratic society should not be tolerating the call for the destruction of a democratic society, of a country in the world, and the annihilation of its people. Now, Roger Waters will say, I'm not calling for the annihilation of the Jewish people or the annihilation of the people of Israel. I'm just calling for the destruction of the state of Israel, the state of the entity of Israel. I believe in boycott, divestment, sanctions, which, by the way, the leadership of boycott, divestment, sanctions has made it clear that their goal, and it's always been their goal, is to destroy the state of Israel. That's been their goal. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how Roger Waters could get away from that. I'm not sure how he could get around that. It's sad. It really is sad. And I invite you to call in. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me that we should boycott guys like Roger Waters? That we should stand up and support the state of Israel? I mean, I really believe we should. But do you agree that we should be doing this? It is infuriating that a man like Roger Waters, who plays on his fame, he plays on the fact that he's a famous guy, and he is promoting this kind of talk. He's promoting this kind of destruction. He wants to destroy the state of Israel. I find it infuriating. Personally, I find it infuriating. Personally, I find it really sickening, like deep to my stomach, that this guy is feted so many times and so often, and that people respect him. It seems to me that we're just gluttons for punishment. It seems to me that we are just attempting to be self-destructive when we support people like Roger Waters. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292 to get in on the conversation. If you want to talk to me, that's the number to call. We are live. 1-877-669-1292. I am infuriated when I see high-profile anti-Israel people. People who perpetrate the false claim that Israel oppresses the so-called Palestinian people. That this oppression somehow comes from Israel. And that the Israelis that are killed on a regular basis by these people who claim to be oppressed, and the Israelis that are not allowed to go to different parts of the Middle East, Jews who aren't allowed traveling to Saudi Arabia, a lot allowed traveling to Syria, a lot allowed traveling to Iraq, Iran, and Israel's the apartheid state. It's kind of infuriating. It's not even kind of infuriating. It's extremely infuriating that this is the case. That here we are in a situation where you have a democratic state. They are being attacked from within, and they have been attacked from within for the last 60 years. And yet they are still somehow portrayed as the villain. I'm not sure how that happens. I'm not sure why that happens, and I'm not sure that should happen on a regular basis. I'm not so happy about that. But that's world politics, and that's been like that for a long time. I've been covering the anti-Israel bias in the media for multiple decades already. I remember years ago, I was a pup reporter, and one of my jobs, I took over from Hillel Neuer. Hillel Neuer is, of course, the executive director of UN Watch, and before he was that, he was a journalist in Montreal, and I took over a column that he was writing called Gazette Watch. Yeah, Hillel had this thing about watching things, And so I took over. He was writing for the Suburban at the time, and he left the column, and I took over the column from Hillel Neuer. And the column that I was writing called Gazette Watch basically looked at the Gazette and the articles that the Gazette took from other sources and how the Gazette edited those articles to make it them anti-Israel. And I published week after week. We published examples. This article appeared in the New York Times. This is what the New York Times said, and this is how the Gazette said it. And this is how the Gazette made it look more anti-Israel than the New York Times. Not that the New York Times was a big Israel lover at the time, or even now, but the Gazette did take articles from the from different sources and altered the articles to make them even more anti-Israel than they originally were. And so here we are, and I'm writing this article. I'm writing this column, and then there's a conference. And at the conference, Senator Joan Fraser, she's not currently a senator. At the time, she was publisher of the Gazette. She appeared at the conference. And so I decided to go. I said, why not? Let's go and let's have a little bit of fun. I read a column called Gazette Watch. She's the publisher of the Gazette. Let's go and push her a little bit about this anti-Israel bias. So I got up at this conference, and she gave her little speech, and then I got up to ask a question. And the question I asked Joan Fraser was simple. I said, listen, I've been writing this column, Gazette Watch, for the Suburban for the last year and a half. And she says, I am very familiar with that column. I said, wonderful. So you know who I am? She says, yes, I know who you are. I said, beautiful. She says to me, I say to her, all right, you know who I am. I write this column called Gazette Watch, and I want you to answer me. I want an honest answer. I said, I know you're a journalist, you're a publisher of a newspaper, and honesty might not be your main language, but I would like an honest answer. I had a lot of chutzpah back there, as much as I have today. And she looked at me, and she had this stern look in her face. She was looking at me as if I was the enemy, and essentially for her, I was the enemy. And she looked at me, and she said to me, there is no evidence at all that the Gazette is anti-Israel. And I said, I see. I said, but I've been publishing an article and before me, Hillel Neuer was publishing the article before me, this column. And it's been going on for a while already. And we keep pointing out how anti-Israel the Gazette is. So how could you say it's not anti-Israel when we prove time and time and time again that the Gazette is anti-Israel? She said, give me an example. So I said, sure. Here's an example. I said, in this issue of the Gazette, and I don't remember what the date was now, but I remember the story. I said, the story was that a Arab walked into a Jewish schoolyard and stabbed a bunch of little kids. And so the New York Times article, under this byline, whoever wrote the New York Times article, said that a knife-wielding Arab walked into a schoolyard and stabbed 4 kids, and the Israeli army came and caught him and neutralized him. The Gazette article, under the same byline, same headline, same exact setup, the Gazette article said, Israeli troops rolled into a town and killed 4 people after a knife-wielding Arab went. So, when you put the Israelis killing the Arabs before the Arabs killing the Israelis, you are essentially being anti-Israel. She stopped and she looked at me and she said, all right. She says, maybe it was an editing error. I said, no, somebody rewrote the top of the story. There's no editing error here. Somebody rewrote the story. You can't claim an editing error when somebody rewrites the story. She stopped and she said to me, well, okay, you have one example. Do you have another example? And I said, I have plenty of examples. I could show you a year and a half worth of examples. And plus, if I really looked, I could find even more. And she said to me, all right, fine. She said, compile all your examples and bring them to my office at the Gazette. And if I find that you are correct and the Gazette has had a perceived bias against Israel, I will issue an apology, a public apology. I said, whoa, that's amazing. Thank you, Miss Fraser, and I will get back to you. And I left. Well, I worked hard and I compiled a bunch of examples of articles that the Gazette altered from other news sources, and I put them all into a binder, and I brought my binder down to the Gazette office, and I got to the secretary and I said, I'm here to see the publisher, Miss Fraser. She's expecting me. Secretary called Joan Fraser and said, Miss Fraser, there is a man here to see you. And he says he's expecting you. She told him who I was. And Joan Fraser said, sure, come on in. And I walked into Joan Fraser's office at the Gazette. She was the publisher of the Gazette. I walked into her office at the Gazette. And I said, you challenged me. I'm probably the wrong guy you want to challenge when it comes to stuff like this, because I will always follow through on this kind of challenge. You challenged me, and I'm here with the evidence. Here is the evidence. And I plopped my binder down on her desk. Miss Fraser looked at me and said, I will review it and I will make a determination and I will get back to you. And then she escorted me out of her office. I'm still waiting. She's left the Gazette. She was gone from the Gazette for maybe 25 years now. She's been a senator for maybe 10 years now. I'm still waiting for her public apology. I'm still waiting for her to get back to me to say I was right or I was wrong. But that's what happens. That's what happens with newspapers that are biased. So this all brings me to the Canadian Jewish News that shut down a couple of weeks ago. The Canadian Jewish News has been around in the Jewish community in Montreal, in the Canadian Jewish community for 80 odd years, and then they announced in 2014 that they were shutting down. At the time we set up at True Talk Radio, we set up the Montreal Jewish News to replace the Canadian Jewish News. But then the Canadian Jewish News decided they were going to reopen, so we put that project on the back burner. So here we are. The Canadian Jewish News shut down, and we are and I'm not crying. I'm not shedding a tear about the Canadian Jewish News shutting down. I know a lot of people in the community, a lot of people in the Jewish community across the country are crying, "Oh my gosh, what are we going to do about the Canadian Jewish News?" I'm not shedding a tear. That newspaper was not a good newspaper. It wasn't a good newspaper before they rejigged it after the original shutdown. It wasn't a good newspaper after they rejigged it after the shutdown. The Canadian Jewish News was never a good newspaper. Why do I say that? I will tell you why I feel that the Canadian Jewish News was not a good newspaper, and I say good riddance to the Canadian Jewish News. I say goodbye, good riddance. See ya. Sayonara. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And I say this because I've had some run-ins with the Canadian Jewish News. Of course, that's why I say this. I've had some run-ins with the Canadian Jewish News. So the first run-in I had with the Canadian Jewish News, I was 19 years old. I had started an organization called Save All Jews Everywhere. Now, for those of you who live in Montreal, you might remember this organization. We were pretty vocal at the time, and we were condemned by the mainstream Jewish organizations for forever. As long as the organization existed, we were condemned by mainstream Jewish organizations because they didn't like the fact that we were young Jews trying to make a difference and speaking up for the community, and they felt that they were the ones who had to speak for the community, so they condemned us on a regular basis. All right, fine. So condemnations and people condemning me, I'm kind of used to it, and I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. So here we have the Canadian Jewish News. And they call me up one day. One of the reporters there calls me up. I'm not going to name which reporter, but one of the reporters at the Canadian Jewish News calls me up and says, "Hey, Howie," he says, I want to do a profile on you. I think it's good that young Jews are active in the community, and I'd like to do a profile on a young Jew active in the community. And I said, sure. And so let me just preface this with: any time a profile has ever been done of me in a newspaper, it's never been satisfactory. It's never been a good profile. So Canadian Jewish News didn't disappoint me at all. When I spent an hour and a half on the phone with the reporter, and then the newspaper ran an article calling me a radical and using snippets of what I said to prove the point that I'm a radical. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I called the Canadian Jewish News. I said, "Hey, that's wrong," and the reporter laughed at me, hung up, and Thank you very much. All right, fine. So, do I have a personal vendetta against Canadian Jewish News? No, not at all. I just didn't think they were a good newspaper anyway. So, we moved on. I became the public relations director for Mizrahi Canada. Now, Mizrahi Canada was an organization. It's the oldest organization in Canada. It was founded in Montreal, and it is the oldest Jewish organization in Canada. It predates everything except for the Spanish and Portuguese synagogue. And I was the public relations director for Mizrahi for a few years. And they were doing some big event, and I went to the Canadian Jewish News, and I said, hey, listen, I would like you to cover this event. And they said no. And they refused to cover the event. And so when I went to the editor in Toronto, he called the reporter. The reporter called me crying that I misunderstood what she had said. Okay, fine. We move on. The Canadian Jewish News was a mouthpiece for Federation for years. They were essentially Federation-owned. And being so, they took a very progressive liberal stand on all issues concerning Judaism. Now, I've never pertained to try to be everything for everybody on this show. There are people who listen to this show who I'm sure do not like a word I'm saying on the show. There are people who listen to this show who I'm sure would wish that I would just disappear, that I would turn off the microphone and never turn it on again. And there are people who listen to the show who love every word I say. Because you can't be everything for everyone. And, if you're not honest about what you believe in, if you're not honest on who you are and the kind of person you are, you can never put on a good show. Nobody would ever want to listen to this. So I get on here. I'm as honest could be. You're not going to get a more honest person when it comes to what I believe in. You're not going to get a more honest person when it comes to how I believe in stuff. The Canadian Jewish News was a little two-faced. They believed that they were lackeys for Federation, and they didn't like to rock the boat. So they never did. So it was an issue for me that they didn't want to rock the boat. And they published every condemnation against me that was ever leveled against me, right up until I left Radio Shalom. So every condemnation, every critical thing that was ever said about me was published in the Canadian Jewish News right up to the time I left Radio Shalom. So I'm good with that. They had it out for me. I'm happy they're gone, and I hope they don't get revived again. And if they do get revived again, because maybe the community needs a national newspaper. I don't know. I don't think they do. But maybe the community needs a national newspaper. So if this newspaper ever gets revived again, I hope and I pray that they come back in a more accepting manner, where they accept more of community thought and more people who are active in community. So that's what I have to say about the Canadian Jewish News. Goodbye, good riddance, good luck. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. Just after 8 o'clock, we'll be joined by Sheldon Eric Freed, my long-suffering producer on this show. He'll be joining us just after 8 o'clock. And I'm here with you. And I'm trying not to talk about the pandemic. I know we want to talk about this. I know, but how many times can we talk about this? How much left is there to say? If you really want to talk about it, I could tell you that I think, and I've said this at the beginning, and I've said this in the middle, and I'm still saying this, that a lot of the draconian measures that our politicians have taken when it comes to COVID-19 have been overkill. I think the world went into overkill with COVID-19. I think that we, as a society, have been punished enough, and I think it's time to reopen society. If you look at the numbers, the possibility of massive outbreaks, and when you talk about massive outbreaks, you're talking about maybe 0.5% or 0.25% of the population is a massive outbreak. It's ridiculous to lock up 99% of the population for 1%. It should be the other way around. 99% should be free, and 1%, the vulnerable, the elderly, the vulnerable, should be locked up or quarantined. So to quarantine the entire world seems to me as a little bit of overkill. But I'm not a scientist. This is my personal opinion. Don't take my opinion for anything but my opinion. I know people like to say, oh, Howie said this, so it must be true. No, don't take my opinion for anything but my opinion, because that's all it is. So here we are. We're in a situation. We're in a situation now where we're all locked up. The numbers worldwide don't warrant the quarantine that we're in. If you take a look at countries that weren't in quarantine, their numbers are no different than the national numbers anywhere else. If you take a look at states that have come out of quarantine in the United States, like Georgia, who've been out of quarantine for 2-3 weeks now, their numbers haven't blown up. There's no crazy amount of new cases in Georgia or new deaths. So while I care about the elderly, and I really do, and while I feel that we should be protecting them, can be protecting them and not punishing everyone else. So that's the way I feel. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's the way I feel. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on television. Masks. Let me ask you a question about masks. Maybe a doctor out there can answer this question because it doesn't make any sense to me. If we're wearing masks to protect other people, and other people are wearing masks to protect us, then why do we have to social distance while wearing masks? If the mask is going to stop me from transmitting my disease to somebody else, it's going to stop somebody else from transmitting the disease to me, then why do I have to stand 6 feet away from that person? Just a thought. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. Sheldon Eric Freed will be joining me in exactly 2 minutes. And I'm very happy that Sheldon Eric Freed has taken time out of his Sunday to be here on the show. And of course, you could be in on the conversation too. You could join us in chat and talk. And this week, Sheldon will be able to hear you, which is a plus because that doesn't happen every week. So this week, Sheldon will be able to hear you, and you could call in 1-877-669-1292. Now, I've gotten a couple of questions about Mark David and what happened to Mark David on the show. And Mark David's in quarantine and he's away from his studio, and he says he will be rejoining the show as soon as he possibly can. So once he's able to get back to his studio, back to his equipment, he'll be joining the show. But until then, he's taking time off. And you know what? Mark's been on the show for 12 years. I think he deserves a little bit of time off. So I'm hoping he's enjoying his time off and enjoying his time sitting alone in his cramped little quarters. And I'm hoping that he joins us when this is all over and when he can get back to his studio. All right, so I'm happy to welcome back to the show Mr. Sheldon Eric Freed. Sheldon Eric Freed is, of course, my long-suffering producer, and he's been on the show for quite a few years, too. And Sheldon, welcome to the program. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. How are you?
I am, thank God, excellent. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay, hanging in there. You know, same thing. Every day is a challenge in its own right. But you know what? I said this to you last week that it seems like I'm as busy now, if not busier, than I was before this COVID-19.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
You know what? It's a good thing because if you're bored and twiddling your thumbs, then these days can be like years. Well, so you know what? You get yourself busy, and next thing you know, the day's done, and then there's a new day, and so on and so forth. And there's stuff that I wanted to do before and I couldn't do before, and now I have the chance to do it. So why not?
Right, of course, yeah.
I mean, obviously, I did not wish this whole thing to happen, as you did not wish this to happen, and it's too bad we're all in a standstill and we can't get back to our normal lives. We only could wish that we could, and now you know we have to take the time and do things that we wouldn't have been able to do, or we would put it under the back burner somewhere. And now we just decided, you know what, it's our time. Let's do the things that we couldn't do before, and that's pretty much what I'm doing.
Well, I'm glad that you're getting stuff done. That's a good thing.
I mean, obviously there was a big setback when it came to the schools and locally here, and I know this is affecting you big time, and you and I were discussing about it earlier today. And it's my heart goes out to all the professionals, the people in the front lines. Also, they've been really going through it's just been going through quite a time, and my heart goes out to these people that are that are on the front lines.
But they're doing their jobs.
Yeah, they're doing their jobs, but it's really, again, it's all unprecedented circumstances. And yes, they're doing their jobs,
But
but
the question is, Sheldon. I asked this question. Is it i- does it have to be unprecedented circumstances? I mean, is this just not manufactured fear? I know
you know,
we've talked about this before, but is this not
what
manufactured fear?
it's so hard to tell. I don't have an answer. I'm not a scientist any more than you are. I'm not a doctor. I don't know really what goes on in terms of what's going on. I mean, you see these things in the news every day, which really scares the living daylights out of me. And you don't know what's true, what's not true. And I don't believe in conspiracy theories any more than you do. Has the government overdone it? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I can't tell you on my crystal ball if they did or they didn't. Like you said about the masks and everything, about if everybody would wear the masks, well, we'd have the social distancing. The thing is that a lot of governments, I shouldn't say, maybe about half the governments did have asked and pleaded for people to get masks, but has not been considered. Not has it has not been mandatory. It
Well,
has not been
well,
compulsory
wait
to
a second,
wear.
wait a second. Some governments have asked. Some governments said at the beginning that masks were pointless. That there was no point in wearing masks, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah,
And then
I remember.
then there were people who said that if you're wearing a mask, you're protecting other people. It's not going to do much for you, and that's probably true too. So you're stopping your germs from getting to other people. So you're protecting people around you. So be responsible. Wear a mask. That was the latest thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then they said, okay, but if you're wearing a mask, you still have to socially distance. But why? Why? If my mask is catching my germs and your mask is catching your germs, then why can't I stand next to you? All right.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
there are things that are so contradictory when it comes to this things that it just bothers me.
It's been contradictory right from the beginning
No, of
because, like you
course.
said, they'll say one thing, then the next day or the next week they'll say something else, and it's like you're scratching your head. You don't know what to believe. Members of the public, the media doesn't know what to believe. So, like everybody's running around with their tail between their legs because nobody knows what to believe anymore.
But you know the the idea is that before they were saying, listen, when we smash the curb, when we smash that curb, that bubble, when we burst the bubble, we could go
Flatten the
back.
curve.
We
Yeah.
flatten that curb. We could go back to the way we were living, right? We go back to regular life. Now they're saying, well, listen, if we don't find a cure, we can never go back to regular life. Well, which one is it? Come on, make up your mind. Is it a cure? Is it smashing the curb? What is it?
Again,
it's
they don't
enough
know.
to
They
drive you
don't.
crazy.
I know. I don't know what to believe anymore. Like that's a good question. I don't know what to believe anymore because one minute they tell you this, one minute they tell you something else. Then they tell you that there's a possibility there's a vaccine that's going to be coming out soon. Then you don't know what to believe anymore. Then there was the herd immunity.
Yeah.
That's been scientifically debunked because a lot of people from the scientific community did not believe in that.
No, there's a lot of stuff that's been debunked when it comes to
Yeah.
COVID-19.
So honestly, how I have no idea of like the only thing I basically been able to do was go out on the balcony, take walks, social distancing myself, mask or no mask right now because I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah.
But and now the weather is getting nicer, so people want to get out. People want to go to the summer cottages. People want to go out to the campgrounds. People want to go out and do picnics, be out in parks and everything, and they can't do it. And we feel like we're hostages. We don't know what to do. We don't know the information is so misinformation that the governments don't even know what to tell you anymore.
That's true.
And we have these press conferences, Howie, practically every day, 7 days a week. I know our provincial premier, he cut it down to now every couple of
But he
days.
didn't
now.
really because he's been doing it every day anyway.
Now he's doing it every day, but he didn't do it this weekend, at least not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's basically saying the same thing. He kept backpedaling. I backpedaled so much that I would fall off my bicycle if I was driving it. So like the schools that were supposed to open up on the 25th of May, the elementary schools, that's not going to happen. The businesses that were going to open up, that's not going to happen. So we don't know what's going to happen. You being a teacher, my girlfriend being a teacher, Nobody knows what's going on. My girlfriend was telling me just the other day. Speaking of the teachers, they're doing some online stuff the Ministry of Education wanted to send an email to the teachers, finding out to ensure that they have high speed internet. So in the meantime, until the schools are actually the students physically go back, will the teachers have the facilities to be able to conduct their courses and classes online?
Yeah, well, that's the question, right?
Yeah, yeah. So the thing is, it's impacting so many people. The parents don't know what to do because the high school students could pretty much fend for themselves. They can stay home, whatever the case is. Parents don't have to worry about them so much. But the young kids, the
Well, look,
parents,
schools aren't
somebody has.
schools aren't supposed to be babysitting services. They're supposed
Well,
to be
that but that,
educational institutions.
the
So
government
if we're
is
looking
using
at
it as babysitting
if we're looking at
services.
schools to be babysitting services, then of course,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of parents are using daycares for. Even if one of the parents are staying home, they'll still put their child in daycare.
right.
It's one thing if both parents have to work because they need the money for put food on the table, whatever. That's a different story for the time being. But there's other times that could you just imagine, Howie, like kids are being with the parents 24 hours a day. At least when the kids are in schools, elementary schools, daycares, whatever, the kids are away from the parents. The parents have a bit of a break, and then the kids come home after. But now the kids are with the parents. So could you just imagine? Some of the parents must be driven absolutely mashig.
Well, if you don't want to take care of your kids, you shouldn't have kids.
Well, that's another story. I agree with you.
If you have kids, then you should be willing to take care of them.
I agree with you. But
I understand what you're saying. Parents aren't used to having their kids around, but
exactly, they're not.
But if you have kids, you shouldn't be complaining.
It should be unconditionally as long as the kids are healthy, they're happy.
That's it.
And that's it.
And
Of
if you're
course,
tired because your kids are busy and your kids are active, that's life. Shouldn't have
Yeah.
had kids. If you can't deal with kids, you shouldn't have had kids.
that's life. I've heard all the people say. Yeah.
And I sound cold and callous when I say stuff like this. And people
No,
people
Howie,
call
it
me
makes
cold and
sense.
callous when I say stuff
No,
like that.
that makes 100%.
But in my mind, there are a lot of people who don't have kids, who want to have kids, who can't have kids, or who don't have kids for various reasons. If you are lucky enough to have kids, appreciate
Yeah.
the miracle and take care of them.
And they're definitely a miracle, and they bring so much joy to your life. I mean, look, I got two wonderful sons, love them. I mean, it's so bad I'm unable to see them. Although they live in my area, but we can't see each other.
Yeah.
And it's not and like the kids that do live away from their parents, and the parents can't see the kids. Look, my birthday's coming up on Tuesday.
Yes, it
I'm
is.
not usually the,
I was
usually
going
the-
to. I wasn't going to mention it, but now that you mention it,
Well, I'm putting this in the fact that my kids usually get together. They'll take me out for a bite to eat, or we'll go to their house and they'll make me a barbecue or something like that. And like for the first time, I can't see my mother, I can't see my kids, I can't see my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And it's my youngest son just had his birthday last week. His wife had her birthday today. My nephew has his birthday 10 days after. May's a busy month. in this family. My sister-in-law has her birthday May 1st. My nephew
Wow.
has his birthday May 29th. Yeah, it's quite a lot.
and Sheldon's
it's quite a
birthday's
lot.
on Tuesday. I wasn't going to mention it because Sheldon gets a little testy when I mention his age. But Sheldon,
Well, you don't have to mention my age. You can mention my birthday.
but Sheldon is turning 97 on
Oh,
Tuesday,
shut up.
and
My God.
we here at the Howie Silbiger Show.
Glad to see that things haven't changed.
Congratulate Sheldon on reaching this
Thank you.
milestone birthday.
Yeah, thank you so much.
97 years old.
So let me ask you a question.
and as strong as an ox. I have to tell you, at 97, the man is as strong as an ox. You could hear it
Thank
in
you
his
so
voice. He's
Thank
healthy.
you so much.
He's healthy.
Yeah.
He's happy.
I'm happy. I'm
He
happy
just-
to be on this show and be a good friend of yours,
And,
Howie.
and,
Yes,
and,
I'm very happy.
I have to
I'm picked on.
mention something else because
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
because 97-year-old Sheldon he made an
Yeah, here we go.
avatar. He made an avatar on Facebook.
Oh, here we go.
And he put this avatar up, and I was looking at it, and I was saying, there's something wrong with this avatar. And I was staring at this avatar for about 5 minutes, trying to figure out
I
what
am
was
not
wrong.
putting gray. I'm not putting gray hair on, and I have hair on my head. So don't even go there.
The hair on the avatar.
I know what you were going to think. Yes, I had hair on my avatar, not bald, not gray. Yes, I have glasses, no facial hair. Yes, I have an avatar on Facebook. Okay,
You didn't even let me finish my sentence.
you didn't have to.
Oh, Sheldon.
I'm waiting for you to put an avatar on
I'm
Facebook.
trying to finish my sentence. So Sheldon puts his
okay.
avatar up. I have to finish telling the story, Sheldon.
Okay.
I start telling the story. I have to finish the story.
Okay.
So Sheldon puts his avatar up, and I'm looking at his avatar trying to figure out what the heck is this. This does not look at all like Sheldon. This avatar has hair. And this avatar has dark hair. And I didn't understand. So I didn't ask Sheldon about it, but I figured that he was feeling a little bad about turning 97 this week. So he's trying to make himself feel younger. So I empathize with Sheldon.
Oy, oy, oy.
So I empathize with you, Sheldon. I empathize with you.
Oh yeah, I could see how much you're empathizing with me. Okay.
The empathy is in my voice.
Oh, it's just it's so in your voice. I could just feel it. I could just feel it.
Oh, good. As
Oh.
long as it's coming through, because it's
Oh,
important.
that's coming through for sure.
It's
Yes.
important that you know that I'm empathetic.
Yes. By the way, I just wanted to let you know,
Yeah.
and I want all the listeners to know that the Howie Silbiger Show is indeed brought to you by the Howie Silbiger.
That's right.
Yes, I heard that before. That was really well. That was really well spoken. Really well.
That the Howie
yeah.
Silbiger Show is brought to you by the Howie Silbiger Show.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was really that's
Thank you.
what I like. A person that stands behind the sponsor of his own show. I love that.
You know, you have to support your sponsors. If you don't support
Yes.
your sponsors, they stop sponsoring you.
Exactly.
You know, when we put this up to stream on Facebook and on Twitter and all these other places, so for some reason it put up the title. This is a test. This is only a test.
I was looking at that and I was wondering what is going on.
And I'm looking at this going, I don't know why I did that. But
And I thought maybe
Whatever.
that was your avatar.
yeah, that would actually be the kind of avatar I'd put up for myself.
Yes, exactly. So I thought you were doing this as having an avatar getting back at me at Facebook.
You could join the conversation if you want, by the way. The number to call, 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. Now,
What's the name of the show?
I don't know. Now, Sheldon, the other day I found
You
some copies of the Howie Silbiger Show
You did?
from 2005.
Oh my God.
And I'm listening to the Howie Silbiger Show in 2005.
I'm glad that you're listening to your own show.
I'm listening to me in 2005.
Okay.
And
Sound younger, eh?
I did not sound any younger than I sound today.
May imagine that, eh?
My voice hasn't changed much. You know, when I listened to the 2001 episodes of the Howie Silbiger Show, shows from 2001,
Okay.
my voice was quite different than it is now.
You see, that's what happened when you rode the banana seat on the bicycles.
That must be.
And
Because
you hit a few bumps and you changed your voice.
in 2001, my voice was more like, "Hi, this is the Howie Silbiger Show here on that." So it's not like that anymore, right?
Yeah, okay. It's either that or the size underwear, J.C. Penney.
Whatever. Something changed between then and now.
Oh, something changed, all right.
Yeah. You know, it's 19 years, so something changed between then and now, right?
Something changed.
And
Yeah.
so here we are. I'm listening to the 2005 episode of the Howie Silbiger Show. I think it was 2005 or 2004.
Did you agree or disagree with what you said back in 2004?
So I was doing a rant. Let me tell you. I was doing this rant, and I'm listening to this rant, and I was thinking that I could take the rant from 2004, I could replay it today, and it would still be relevant.
Do you have it available to replay today?
I do not have it on any of these computers. No.
Okay.
But if
I would like to listen to the way you sounded back in 2004.
You knew me in 2004.
Yeah, but I'd like to hear how you sounded on the air.
We were working together in 2004.
Yes, we were working. Yes, but we were at CJD at the time.
Yeah,
yes.
we were. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I sounded exactly like I sounded at CJD on the
Okay.
show.
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for the other people who don't remember, they should listen to that.
We were working together in 2001 too. We were.
We weren't working together. We were working at the same place, but
Right.
we weren't working on the same show. You were
Exactly.
doing one show. I was during the week, and you were on what, Sundays or?
Well, yeah.
When-
I was all
You
over.
were-
I was all over the schedule.
And sometimes you would take my place. Well, the best was my favorite part of the whole thing was when it came to the Christmas scheduling. Nobody wanted to work Christmas.
Except for me.
And then what they wanted to do is they decided they'll pay really top dollar to get the producers to come in and work Christmas. So yes, they would have. It was you, another person. There was, I think, 3 to 4 people that were working at Christmas.
Yep.
This was going back years and years and years ago. So it was you, myself, the late Merv Williams,
Yep.
Mike Babbins. I don't know if there was another person
No, that was
in
it.
that.
That was it.
I think it was, and we kept taking over from one, going to the other, going to the other,
And
going
Merv
to the other.
and Merv Williams wasn't there the whole time either. So he was in and out. So
Okay, so
Yeah.
it was what you, Mike Babbins, and myself. Then.
yeah, I moved in.
Okay, yeah. So I remember it. It was hilarious because one time I would do Shom, then one time Babbins would do CJD, then I would do Mix.
Yep.
Then you would do a. Then you would do a. Did you ever work at Mix? I forget if you.
I
worked at Mix.
I worked at every station they ever owned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you worked at Shom. Okay. Yeah. Well, I know about Shom, but I didn't. I forgot if you worked at Mix
Yeah, yeah.
because at that time was Mix, not Virgin 96.
Yeah, I
so-
used to be I used to be the producer of Rhythms International.
Oh yeah, with Daniel Feist. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
The late Daniel Feist.
And then
Yeah.
then the couple of guys who replaced him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't last that much long. Daniel Feist, I remember when I was the old days at Shom, when we were at the old house on 1355 Green Avenue,
Yeah.
and Daniel Feist was doing production. He was in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
The production studio was in the basement. I don't know if you've ever been in the old house, but I worked in the old house as an intern. That's when I had my first taste of radio. I worked in an intern at Shom back in the good old days, and you would see the owner that would come in, Jeff Sterling, every once in a while. The old Shom ghost. You would hear the dishes rattling. You would hear the creak up the stairs, and the studio was up on the 3rd floor with the window opening up in the back, and there were plants, and the board was set up in a beautiful wooden area. It was gorgeous.
All right. Too bad they left there.
Yeah. Well, eventually, when they moved to 1310 Green Avenue, where I rejoined it, the house burnt down.
Right.
Now the house is up, but a store is now occupying the house on 1355.
Oh, well.
So a little bit of, and the wooden door that had the glass heart for people that are Montrealers, that had the 1355 is in Papineau, where Shom is situated now.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
A little bit of Montreal radio history for you there.
Yes, it is.
But Sheldon, yeah. So Sheldon and I were working in the same place for years and years and years together,
Mhm.
and we're still working in the same place, but we're not together too. So there you go.
See, that's the thing with internet radio, and since True Talk being one of the first station to do internet radio,
Yeah, we
I
were
mean,
station number 2 in the world.
yeah, we already decided to do our well when we were at Radio Shalom, but then now how long have we been doing this from our studios at home? Now, how many years has it been?
5 maybe.
It's 5 years. Okay, so 5 years. Obviously, when we first started doing it, way before the COVID-19, and now a lot of people from radio stations, they're working from home.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've been doing this a long time. We've been
Yeah.
socially distancing for 5 years.
I haven't even seen the inside of your studio yet.
I know. It's 5
Yeah.
years.
5 years.
Yeah, yeah. It's
And
amazing.
when we used to go after True Talk, we would go for a bite to eat.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore either.
No, well,
Because-
especially now we can't do it. Yeah,
Because I really don't want to see Sheldon. That's what it comes down to.
is that nice? No wonder long-suffering producer.
I mean, I see him now because we're doing this video thing, but
yes.
but before we started doing this video thing, I didn't even get to see Sheldon. I was just like talking to him. He was a voice coming out of the ether.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's scary.
So let me ask you: the Howie Silbiger Show is brought to you by who?
Howie Silbiger. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just want to double check. Okay, so I'm going to put Howie Silbiger brought to you by Howie. Okay.
Yeah, there you
Took
go.
notes.
1-877-669-1292 is the number to call if you want to get in on the
Yes.
conversation. 1-877-669-1292. I'll pay for the call, so you can just dial the number and I'll pay for the call.
Yeah.
1-877-669-1292.
Anywhere around the world, North America, anywhere around the world, Europe, Israel, everywhere.
Really?
Yes. Well, isn't that a toll-free number?
I don't think the toll-free number will work from Israel. It'll work
Oh.
in North America, anywhere in North America, for sure.
Okay. Anywhere in North America. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. If you're in Israel, try to give it a shot.
Yeah, well, if you have a North American number, you could give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1-877-669-1292. Sheldon.
Howie.
Sheldon.
Yes.
All right. So if we ask you the question,
Yes.
would you take public transport these days?
If masks were compulsory, yes.
Why? Why is it contingent on masks?
Well, again, if no, didn't isn't that what you just said? If everybody wore masks, then it wouldn't be a need to social distance from one another. But if you don't have
Well, no, I
masks, and
didn't.
let's say you,
I didn't say that I'm not a doctor. I asked a question.
okay, but that's how I would base it on. But actually, the transportation hub, I believe it's mandatory now to wear a mask. I may be wrong on that locally. I'm not sure. I don't remember if it is or it isn't, but I think it was supposed to be mandatory. If that's the case and I really needed to go somewhere, then yes, I would.
Do you think that the government overhyped this and built up a fear in the population that's unwarranted?
Definitely. Oh, we're so overhyped and we're so overloaded with information. All you need to do, even going on Facebook alone, and you see all the different news sites from all over the world, from the BBC to the CBC to ABC, everywhere. You're so inundated of everything COVID 19, COVID 19, COVID 19. I guess it's a sure fact that guess what's going to make the front cover of at 2020 at the end of 2020. So you know what? We're so inundated. We're so oversaturated with news. Like I said, we don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know what to believe in anymore. You don't know what to believe anymore. And there's thousands of people, millions of people around. We don't know what to do anymore. We keep hearing, we're trying to follow government directives because we like to think, and I'm saying we like to think, that they happen to know what they're talking about. But when you keep switching stories all the time, from one day or one week to another, how do you know what to believe?
That's a question. That's a good question.
There's no solid foundation in anything. So, do the masks help? Is anybody's guess. I don't know. I mean, the healthcare workers, the frontline workers are wearing masks. Even people that deliver food, the people that deliver the grocery orders, they're all wearing masks. They're all wearing gloves. Some people will refuse to bring it to the door. The building where I live in is strictly prohibiting anything to do except for food orders. There's no deliveries so in other words, if you order something from Amazon or any other courier service, they will not bring it up to your place, the apartment.
Right.
They will notify you, like through the apps and whatever. You go downstairs, you pick it up. And again, what do most people do? And this is what I hear from a lot of people. I don't know if you do this or not. I don't know. But as soon as people get groceries, what do? They wash down the groceries.
I don't do that.
They wash down the groceries. In other words,
everything I've ever read from the beginning of this pandemic was that that the chances of catching this disease through groceries or through that kind of contact is nil.
I heard that too, but I've also heard other people, they're too scared, they're too paranoid. Again,
oh, that's the whole thing I'm talking about, the paranoia that people have built up in their heads.
I've never seen, like, we have such a buildup of paranoia around the world, Howie, it's not even funny. I don't think the world has ever been this paranoid before. Even when SARS came around, I don't think it was like
and
this.
SARS, by the way, killed more people.
Yeah, but were people as paranoid with SARS as they are with COVID-19?
No, H1N1 killed more people. The flu kills more people.
Yeah, the flu always killed more people. Yeah, yeah. But the thing is that they're saying their answer is, I'm not saying I believe or not saying for you to believe it either, but their answer is, well, we come up with the flu vaccines, but they're not always right in the flu vaccines. There's a lot of times they get it wrong.
Yeah.
So as a matter of fact, last year's flu vaccine was wrong, was really way off. The year before was right. It's a guessing game. So what does this tell you? Like I would talk about, to my other friends or whatever. And let me throw this question to you. What does this teach all of us? Like, does this teach that governments have to be more on the ready? They have to be more assertive. They have to be more aggressive. If you were a government leader, and I have absolutely no idea what I would do, how do we make this right? Because there's bound to be another COVID-19 that's going to be within our lives. There's been like that before, like you said, H1N1, SARS. There's been diseases in the past. So there's going to be other diseases in the future. So I would have to think that what do we do for the future? because we can't keep being in this paranoia state. We as a society have to be able to go out. We have to be able to do our normal things. The economy has suffered. People are been out of jobs. Worst cases of unemployment in the United States and Canada since the Great Depression. Economies were hit all over the world.
I've said this before.
What do we do?
I said this before, and I'm going to re-say it again. And this is just I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this is just my speculation. I think that the world freaked out because they actually believed that this was a chemical attack.
Oh yeah,
This
I heard
was
that too.
biochemical attack, and
Oh,
this
I
is
never.
why you had the world freak out.
Well, you
Now,
know what? There were some people of conspiracy theorists, and I completely because if that was the case, you don't think it would kill way more people than it's killing
well,
now,
it's killed a lot of people, Sheldon.
but it would kill even more.
But it's killed a lot of people.
But chemical and biological warfare would kill massive amounts that would make the COVID-19 look like a nothing.
Well, not if the plan is to kill people slowly, to
Yeah.
infect the entire world, and this is
And who do
basically
you
what's happening.
and who do you think would be responsible for killing all the people around the world? Is it one country? Is it a bunch of different countries?
Well, it leaked out of China, so we have to assume China was responsible for this one.
Because I really don't know. I can't believe that anymore because I'm not a conspiracy theorist any more than you are. And I know I've heard this. I've heard like New World Orders. I've heard it from so many different people.
I don't care
And
about
I'm
New
su-
World Orders. I'm just
and
talking
yeah,
I'm talking about practicality. Look, it came
Yeah.
from China. It came from Wuhan, China. This virus.
yeah.
So if it
And
came from
now,
Wuhan, China, and Wuhan, China has chemical factories producing biological warfare, uh, who knows what this was? Because the world freaked out. The world didn't freak out like this over H1N1. It didn't freak out over this over SARS. It didn't freak out over this over any other disease. This is the first disease we've had since since what was it? Since 1910. First
Mhm.
disease in 100 years that they freaked out like this.
Yeah.
So I'm not so sure.
I mean, I really don't believe that. I mean, do I have 100% unfound proof? No.
Neither do
But
I.
but like you said, as much as you make your opinions known, and like you and myself, we're not scientists, we're not
Absolutely
doctors.
not. And my opinion is
Uh,
just that.
yeah,
It's
and my
nothing more than
opinion
my
is just,
opinion.
and my opinion is just that too. I don't believe it is. Can I say conclusively? No. Can I say in my own opinion? Yes.
1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. Do you think that this is biological warfare? Do you think that that the government has overreacted? What do you think? 1-877-669-1292. I'm looking at this, and I think that it's time that that we started going back to regular life. I think that if you take a look at the numbers, we the places that have gone back to regular life haven't had such a spike that that it would say, oh, we should be careful. Start integrating people back together again. Start putting things back to some kind of normalcy, and let's start getting back to real life. We've destroyed people's lives. We've destroyed their livelihoods. We've shut down the economies. It's time to get things back up and running. Now, if you have to do it by social distancing and you have to change the way we do things, fine, do that. But I think we have to start opening stuff, and we have to really start getting back to some kind of normalcy.
But if you take a look at schools, for example, how, like you said, for social distancing, and I would be for that, if social distancing is respected, and obviously if you do have symptoms of it, you shouldn't be around people who don't have it. There are certain countries that have done radical testing to the point that they now have apps which are actually available now, but the government hasn't authorized all cell phone users to get the apps on iOS and Android.
What are you talking about? These apps to track people?
I'm trying to think of it. It's
So
not
this-
just
the-
not just the tracking, but I think also that
These are tracking apps. They track people, and they tell you if you're near somebody who's had this disease.
But I
Now-
thought there was also apps. Correct me if I'm wrong. That could also tell you if you yourself have it.
No.
Okay,
That's
because
a
I
simple
thought they were
test.
supposed to be. Okay.
But
Okay.
to me, having an app that the government traces where you're going and tells you don't stand too close to this guy, he had a disease, that seems a little Orwellian to me.
Yeah, it's a little scary. Yeah,
That
I'm a
scares
little.
me a little bit.
Yeah.
Not that I care that the government knows where I go, because I don't go anywhere I shouldn't be, and I don't care if people know where I am. Google sends me a map every month telling me where I've been, so I mean they're tracking me anyway.
Well, you can get rid of that, but there's ways of getting rid of that. But if you have nothing to hide anyway, what's the big
I
deal?
mean I'm not.
It's like the same thing when the security happened at the airports and everything, and people were so nervous and whatever. And I said, you know what? And I've been in airports before. I said, you know what? I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather be safe knowing that there's nobody, God forbid, on the plane having a bomb.
But my problem with the airport security is that it's not applied equally to everybody getting on the plane. If they searched every single person getting on the plane the way they search some people getting on the plane,
Well, that's of course they should
I
do
would
that.
be I would be much more comfortable. But they don't.
Yeah, of course they should do that. That they if they do it, and like I know when I went to Aruba, I had my CPAP machine, so I had it in a bag. I told the guy right away, and they the CPAP machines are listed that it's acceptable devices to take because I took it aboard the plane, and it's mandated.
Yeah.
It's in the Canada border safety thing that you're allowed to take also distilled water. They have ways of testing it to make sure it is distilled water and nothing else other than what it says on the bottle. So that's fine. So I didn't mind doing that. And I know, and the guy says, I'm sorry, I have to do it. I said, like, the guy was really nice. And I said, there's nothing to be sorry about. I'd rather be safe than sorry. So fine. Do what you need to do. I'm fine with it. As long as I'm going on a plane, I get to my destination, the plane doesn't blow up. That's all I care about.
Right.
So that's fine. If everybody should be screened exactly the same, 100%. If certain people get by and they don't get screened, no.
But people aren't screened 100% the same way. And that's really an issue for me. So you're going to screen me, and you're going to skip the next two guys, and you screen the third guy. And what about the two guys in between?
Well, it was like the same thing in customs. Like if you go through U.S. customs, right away they'll let a few people go, and then all of a sudden they'll say, you go over to the side. Take this number, go over to the side. What about the other two people? Look, it reminded me when this really conscientious junior guard at U.S. Customs caught a person that wanted to bomb L.A. International Airport that came from the place right across the street where we used to be.
Ahmed Rassam, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And if it wasn't for this guard being very astute and being very suspicious, God forbid what would have happened.
Well, Ahmed Rassam was the millennial bomber. He wanted to go blow up LAX airport.
Yep.
I reported on Ahmed Rassam in 1999.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Okay.
I had a list of all the targets he wanted to blow up in Montreal.
Wow.
And so I approached a newspaper I was writing for at the time, The Suburban at the time. And I had this list, and I said to Jim Duff, who was the editor, I said, Jim, I have this list of all the targets that Ahmed Rassam wants to blow up. And I'm the only one that I know of all the reporters in the city who has this list. And he looked at me and he said to me, where'd you get the list from? And I couldn't tell him, of course, because...
Yeah, it was confidential sources.
I had very good sources and very confidential sources. And sources that if anyone found out that they were giving me information, would not be able to give me information anymore.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So, you're dealing in terror cells. I mean, this is what it is, right? It is what it is.
Yeah.
So... Anyway, they refused to run my list. They didn't believe that I had a legitimate list. They refused to run my list. About 4 months later, the National Post ran the list.
Oh, my God.
All right. And not only did they run the list, but they won a national newspaper award for attaining the list. And Stuart, what was his name? The reporter there, whatever, Stuart Bell. He wrote a book based on it, and I had all that information 4 months before. But
and you never heard from Jim after that.
Well, no.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, the publisher has to have the guts to be able to publish what you find. You have an investigative journalist. You have to have the guts to publish what they uncover. And the Suburban didn't have the guts. Okay, so that's life, right? Life goes on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Ahmed Rassam, he raised his money selling trinkets to tourists in Old Montreal.
Oh my God!
And he would sell them using their credit cards, and then he would skim their credit cards for an extra $10, $15 every transaction. And that's how he raised his money to put all those bombs in the trunk of his car. That an untrained, well, maybe barely trained.
I think it was a junior.
Yeah, barely
junior
trained border guard caught him. Yeah.
Yeah. You imagine that, eh?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
Well,
Really makes your hair stand up, and I wish a lot of media would have the guts to really let the reporters do their thing. Rely and trust their sources, even though the reporters don't have to give them their sources, and let the reporters do what they're paid to do their job, and get the facts, ask the hard questions, and do their journal. Be a journalist, be a solid journalist, and for the publishers and the owners to back them.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. One of the reasons that we were encouraged to leave Radio Shalom, one of the reasons the show stopped airing on a daily basis, was that the administration of the station was afraid of the kind of stories we were covering on this show.
Did they get threatened?
They didn't get
that you're
threatened.
aware of?
They didn't get
Okay.
threatened. They were just afraid of the stuff we were covering.
Oh boy.
Because we were exposing the community and community organizations for the hypocrites that they are. And they were trying to, we were exposing these organizations, and they were trying to finesse these organizations to give them money. And it was kind of counterproductive to have me on the air, exposing their secrets and them trying to get them to give them money.
Yeah, it's like some other broadcasting outlets that did fighting back or things against certain advertisers, and some of these advertisers wound up paying to sponsor the media.
Yeah.
And they had to eventually take it off the air because they had so much pressure from the advertisers. At least you have found a platform whereby now you're in the comfort and security of your own home, and can be able to do whatever you want to tackle without being censored.
Hey, look, I uncovered a conspiracy to destroy the Jewish education system in Montreal, and we went after the organizations that were responsible for trying to push this crazy radical philosophy of reforming these Jewish organizations, these Jewish schools that would not have reflected Judaism at the end of that. And we went after them, and we were very successful in getting everything canceled. I mean, they backed down on everything because we exposed them for the frauds that they were. Right after that, the president of the Jewish Federation came to be on the radio with one of the other hosts. But he was only available he wanted to come onto the radio to talk about the community, but he was only available to come during my time slot, the time slot where my show was on.
Mm-hmm.
And the president of Federation refused to sit in the studio with me. So instead of the station saying, "Hey, listen, that's the host that's on at that time. You want to come another time? We'll get another host to take the show. But that's the host who's on at that time. So you want to talk? He's the guy to talk to." Plus, I did that kind of show, which it would have made sense to have him on my show. Instead of having the backbone to say that to the Federation president, what the station did was they told me at the beginning of the show that they brought another host in, and then when the Federation president comes in, I was required to leave the show and let somebody else come in and interview this guy. And then once he left, I was able to retake my show.
Oh my God, I never heard of such a thing in my
So
life.
I would be able to come in and start the show, and then when this Federation guy came in, I'd have to leave the studio so he could come in and do his interview with somebody else. And then when that interview was finished, I'd be able to come back in and continue my show.
Were you allowed to still even be in the building, or they wouldn't even allow you to be in the building either?
No, they're allowed to be in the building, but I couldn't be in the same room with the guy.
Oh my God.
So I said, no. I mean, Sheldon, you know me. I wouldn't do something like that.
Oh, I think I know you quite well.
So I said, no. What we're going to do is my show started at 6 p.m. I said, and he was coming in at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. I think 6:30. I said,
Howie, I'm so surprised that you didn't have the guts to say no. Oh, Howie.
I said, what we're going to do, I said, is you're going to have the host that you called in. He'll come in at 6 o'clock, and he'll take the show at 6 o'clock. He'll host a show till 7 o'clock. So he'll interview the guy and whatever else. He can do that in that hour. I'm going to come on at 7 o'clock, and I'm going to stay on until 9 o'clock, and I am going to refute every single word that the president of the Federation says. So I'll be sitting in another room. I'll be taking my notes, and I'll be doing my research. And when I come on at 7, I'll spend 2 hours refuting every single word and holding the guy accountable for every syllable that he mentions on the air.
And no, lo and behold, that's exactly what you did.
No, they canceled my show.
Oh, they canceled it at that time. Okay.
They canceled the show, the weekday show.
Wow.
I was off the air for 4 months after that, until they called and begged me to come back because their ratings dropped to 0 after I left. And they begged me to come back, and I came back, but I refused to come back during the week, so I only came back on a Sunday show.
Oh, that's how it wound up being. Yeah, because it was going 5 days, and then it slowly started going 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, and finally the Sunday night.
Yep.
Okay.
But but I came back for Sundays only after a 4 month break. I took 4 months off from there, and they called and begged me to come back because I was the star guy on the I was the star guy on the station. I was the main guy.
They should have called you back. Now.
They should have just left me in the damn room with the guy, and I would have never left.
Oh God.
But that's life, right?
Yeah.
And you've worked in radio stations. You know how this works.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about the talent.
No, they only care about one thing: ratings. Well, actually, two things: ratings and the bottom line, which are actually tucked together.
The general manager of the station told me once. He says, "Listen, I'm doing you a favor by putting you on the air." I said, "You're doing me a favor. You're doing me a favor. I'm putting 40 hours of my life into this and not getting paid for it, and you're doing me a favor?"
Yeah. Amazing how people think that way, eh? It's
Seriously.
incredible. Yeah.
Seriously.
It's really incredible how people forget the grassroots, the people that are really, they scratch and claw and they get the stories, they get the facts, they ask the hard questions, they do their research, and and people forget that it's all that people think that right away you just put on your mic and you just say stuff from the top of your head without doing any kind of research, without doing any kind of thorough investigation when you're doing a report on something like this.
It sounds like we're having a conversation now, and it's just off the cuff conversation. And maybe on your end it is. But on my end, this was 3 hours of preparation today. You can't get on to a radio and do a 2-hour show or 2.5-hour show and not prepare for it.
Well, sure.
It's impossible.
It's like anything. Yeah, it's like anything else. Yep.
It's impossible. And although it sounds natural and we're just having a conversation, we have to have information to talk about, or it's just rambling, right?
Sure. Information to talk about, and also some facts, some figures, and what's going on around us.
Exactly.
Because we broadcast all over the world, and we also like to talk about local stuff as well. And the thing is that it doesn't make a difference where you're doing the reporting. The facts are the facts, and journalism, solid, strong, ethical journalism. That's what the key factor is if you want to get into this type of business.
Yeah, you got to do the best you can.
Yeah.
With
and I think
the tools
and
that
I've said this, and I've said this before, Howie, and I think you agree with me that media has changed a lot, because it's now, besides being corporate controlled, and now it's more of what the person in the ivory tower wants versus what's actually the truth. Get to the truth, and you're not afraid. You have all the resources of the media, and you're not afraid to use these resources and really ask the hard questions. And this is what a lot of media, I'm not saying all media, but this is what a lot of media is seriously lacking.
And I tell you, if we ever get back to covering stories on the show, which I'm sure we will eventually get back to, we will. I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions. I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
Well, people need the truth, and there's so much crap out there now. And this is the same thing with the COVID-19 or anything else. We get so saturated by news, we don't know what's fact from fiction. We don't know what's true and false. We don't know what to think.
Well, it depends on who you're watching. If you watch Canadian, if you watch Canadian television, it's a lot different than if you watch American television. If you watch American television, depends what network you watch. You watch one network, you're gonna have one really weird take. If you watch another network, you have another really weird take. So it all depends on what you're watching.
You see, that's why I always believe that the media has a responsibility in getting its three aspects, its 3 points of view. It's one side, the other side, and the truth. And the media has to get to the truth, to the bottom, and get the facts. And you know what? Once we would get the facts, maybe all of us wouldn't be so paranoid.
Well, I'm telling you, media's dead. Media doesn't exist anymore. Media like we knew it doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, no. And that's the problem, because years ago, media was something. The radio station in Montreal that you and I worked at, was it was like God. There was two major radio forces on the English side of radio broadcasting media, and these were unprecedented, down hard, true, strong journalistic stations.
Yeah, not anymore.
And not anymore. Now it's all sensationalism, and it's now controlled by sensationalist media.
Well, it's not even sensationalism; it's all corporate. So when it becomes corporate, then it becomes corporate interest over listener interest or viewer interest.
Exactly.
So as long as it makes corporate happy and the bottom line makes corporations happy, they'll cover it the way they have to cover it. So if they have to, excuse the expression, beat the crap out of COVID-19 in order to get eyeballs to watch their stations or read their newspapers or watch or listen to their podcast, that's what they're going to do. They're going to beat the crap out of COVID-19. If that causes the population to get paranoid, and if that causes the population to go crazy, and if that causes people to commit suicide, as has happened, they're not reporting it, but that's what's happened over this paranoia. If that's what causes it, then the hell with the people, because ratings are more important than people. And that's the sad point. That's the sad part of what media has become.
And the thing is, it's 2 words. It's called tuning in. It's the more people that tune in, that's what they want.
Years ago, I was working for a newspaper, it wasn't Suburban, another newspaper, and it was at the time where Dr. Laura Schlesinger had her national show.
Oh boy!
Sheldon remembers Dr. Laura's national show.
Oh boy!
So, so I was working for this newspaper, and Dr. Laura had come out with a statement on her show where she said that homosexuality was a biological error. She said,
"Oh, I remember that."
She said, "Look, people are born, and they're born to be attracted to the opposite sex, and by being a homosexual, there's something wrong with the biology. Some wiring is wrong, and because the wiring is wrong, it's a biological error. It's you don't have a choice in the matter. It's not you; it's your biology, and there was an error in the biology. This was her point.
Okay.
So the gay lobbies went nuts. And they started calling for boycotting Dr. Laura. They boycotted CBS, who was about to launch a Dr. Laura TV show.
Oh, I remember that.
They canceled her TV show. And Dr. Laura was under the gun for these comments. Okay? You're homophobic. And she kept saying, I'm not afraid of gay people. I'm just stating a biological fact. That if 100% or 90% of the people have this kind of biology and 10% of the people have that kind of biology, then there's something wrong with the 10%, not the 90%, right? It's a biological fact. This is what she was saying.
Oh my God!
Now, whether I agree with her or disagree with her was totally irrelevant at the time. I wrote a column. I had a column in the newspaper. I wrote the column saying, whether you agree with Dr. Laura or disagree with Dr. Laura, she has the right to say what she said. Right? Calling for a boycott of her, harassing her in the street. They were throwing paint on her. They were doing all sorts of stuff. Harassing her, physically attacking her, does not take away her right to express herself. She has a talk show. It's an opinion show. She's hired to express her opinion. Mm-hmm. And so if she expresses her opinion, you disagree with her opinion, you have 2 options. Option number 1 is you could call her as an angry phone call. She has open lines, like I have open lines here. You don't agree with something I say, you could call and yell at me, and we'll put you on the air. I have no problem with that. She said the same thing. You don't agree with me? Call up. We could talk about it. Right? So you have 2 options. Number 1, you call her and you argue with her. And if you don't like what she has to say, and your second option is you turn it off. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you turn it off, what happens is that's one less listener. If a billion people turn her off, then she has no listeners, and then suddenly she's canceled, right?
Mm-hmm.
So calling for a boycott is not going to solve the problem. Boycott her advertisers. No, why would you do that? Just turn off the radio. Don't listen to what she has to say. Because people don't understand how media works. Media works based on ratings. So if you have people listening to you, then of course you stay on the air. If you have nobody listening to you, they take you off the air very quickly.
Oh, do they ever?
So so there you go, right? So I mean, it's just stupid. I mean, I find it stupid because they always go after the advertisers.
Well, that's it, because that's the ones that pocket the wallets of the network, who pays the talent to go on the air and do their show. So that's exactly they go after the queen bee, and that's exactly what they do.
It's much more effective to not listen to the show.
Well, that's it. If you don't listen to the show, it would be canceled anyway, because the sponsors, for people who don't know how ratings work, you and I do, is that the more people that listen, the more that the station or the media outlet can charge for advertising. So the more people you have, the more expensive it is to advertise because of your reach. If you have less people and your reach is not as strong, you're not going to charge as much in advertisers because you're not reaching a lot of people. And if you have nobody to listen to, well, if the salespeople go up and they say, well, buy advertising, and they say, who's listening? Nobody. Well, they're not going to buy advertising.
There you go.
So that's pretty much in a nutshell of readership and ratings and everything else. But that's what people were doing. They were going after the queen bee. They were going after the advertisers.
Yeah.
But yes, the most powerful thing as a listener, because even though you and I are in the media, you and I are also listeners. So let's say we listen to something, we do not like it. Well, we could turn it off, and that's one or two less listeners.
That's right.
And if everybody does the same thing, that's the same thing that's going to wind up happening.
For me, I like to listen to the Howie Silbiger show.
Yeah.
So I listened to the show,
and it's brought to you by indeed Howie Silbiger.
And it is brought to you by Howie Silbiger, and he is a great sponsor for the show.
Great sponsor, great guy. I know him personally.
He pays all the bills, and that's really nice of him.
1-877-669-1292. Yes.
And so other advertisers are always welcome on the show, and they can help pay for the bills. I mean that'd be welcome.
Okay.
And we have tons and tons and tons of listeners, so I mean I'm not worried about.
We got so many listeners. Plus, you get so much stuff on social media and Twitter. My God, it's just beaming.
Twitter's blown up lately. I'm telling you.
Twitter and Facebook and look at Howie's new avatar. Incredible avatar.
I have not made an avatar. I refuse. Sheldon made an avatar.
I had to see what the reaction was going to be.
Sheldon put hair on his avatar.
You're not kidding. That is my story.
Even though Sheldon is bald.
Not bald.
And Sheldon's avatar looks young, even though Sheldon turns 97 on Tuesday.
Oh, no, I'm young. I'm young, my friend. It's 20. The avatar is 26 years old in jeans and a short sleeve shirt and thick eyebrows and glasses. Yes, that's me.
Sheldon is dreaming that looks like him.
Me.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll post a picture of Sheldon up on the Howie Silbiger page on Facebook. Oh, there is one
up
there. There's a video of Sheldon up there. And you look at his avatar and then look at the picture and then you tell me. 1-877-669-1292.
And it's brought to you by the Howie Silbiger Show, and you're listening to Howie Silbiger right now.
1-877-669-1292. It's a toll-free number, by the way, so you don't have to pay for the call.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. Okay.
Technology today is amazing.
Technology is good only when it works.
Yeah, it's so far.
If you could hear somebody on the telephone line.
So far, we've been okay, Sheldon.
We've been okay because we haven't had any calls.
Well, even if you have a call today, we don't get calls every show, but even if we get a call today, we'll be okay, Sheldon.
We'll be okay.
We'll be okay.
All right.
Life as we know it will continue.
That's it. That's our story, and we're sticking to it. Yes.
So Sheldon's going to take a bus this week, and he's going to give us a report on how the bus ride went.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll take a bus this week. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
if I have to go somewhere, I'll take a bus. If I don't have to go anywhere, I don't have any appointments. But if I need to go somewhere, then yeah, one thing I'll take. Then I'll take the bus.
Okay, but you're not going to lick the poles or anything.
No, but you know what? This is another thing too. and you see stories, and then you wonder, is this manufactured or what? There was a story, I think, about a month ago. I'm sure you must have seen it, where a woman in the States, she spat. It was a local supermarket. It wasn't a big chain supermarket. She was spitting on some food, and the supermarket took the food and they threw it all out. They didn't bother washing it. They threw out over $30,000 worth of groceries.
Hmm. That's smart.
Like 30,000, and then you would see.
Did they arrest a woman?
I'm sure they arrested the woman. I don't know what they. I'm sure they arrested the woman.
I mean, they should have arrested her.
Yeah, I'm sure they arrested the woman, and I'm sure they probably the woman would have to pay back, or she was fined too. I'm sure.
Good.
But could you imagine, like, and then you would see other people like spitting, or other people like there was things in the States too. Then you're wondering, is this true? Is this made up? Like you don't know what to believe anymore.
Well, there was a Facebook group, a Facebook and Instagram group where these people were challenging each other to go and lick public things and to go spit on in grocery stores.
I think it was on TikTok, as a matter of
It could have been on
fact.
TikTok. It was one of these things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the guy who ran this group went out and he started licking public toilets,
Oh God, that's just.
and he ended up in the hospital on a ventilator.
Well, let's put it this way. We do know that COVID-19 is real.
Yeah.
That's one thing we could both say. And if you're going to do something as stupid like that, well, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Look, there was a thing in the States when when COVID-19 first came up, and they had the beaches in Florida that were open. It was before the beaches were closed, and before a lot of people were like really angry and saying, why are you having the beaches open and people are having parties and high school parties and stuff like that? So meanwhile, there was a 20 some odd year old kid was saying, "Oh, I won't catch it. My immune system is strong. I'm 20 years old. I've been around people. We've been having parties, whatever." About a month later, he was in the hospital and he was really sick with the COVID-19. I don't know what happened, if he survived, but it is for
he
real.
He did survive, and he
Okay.
apologized for his statement.
Okay, so you remember that story. So
Yeah.
the thing is, we do know it's real, but in terms
No, I
of
never thought it wasn't real.
yeah, but
I,
it's,
I,
like,
I just think that it was overhyped and that the government
Oh.
just overreacted. That's
well,
all.
you know what? That's the thing what media does. They overhype everything, and especially, like, let's put it this way: when do you ever see good news that's overhyped? Never.
Well,
But you'll see.
I've told you in the past what happened when we tried doing good news on this show. We decided one show that we were going to do. You were there for that show, weren't you? When we did the good news show.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sheldon said to me, "Howie, you're always so negative. You're always doing these bad news stories. You're always covering this sad stuff. Why don't we do something that's good news?" And I said, "Sheldon, that's a great idea. We'll do one show where we only do good news." So I asked Mark David to research some good news, and I found some good news stories. And me and Mark sat down, and we did good news for an entire hour. Remember, Sheldon?
Yep, I remember this. Yep.
And we invited people to call in with their good news. If you have a mazel tov, if you have some kind of announcement, if you had something that you wanted people to know about, give us a call, and we would be more than happy to put on the air, and we talk about your good news. Remember this, Sheldon?
And I remember we didn't get a single solitary phone
Not
call.
one phone call.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember the next show when I came on and there was a terror attack in Israel? The next show, and I started talking about the terror attack in Israel, and the peace process that had just fallen apart, and the lines lit up, and we didn't stop getting calls that entire show.
Well, you know what it is. You'll always hear breaking news that's bad news. You'll never hear breaking news that's good news, or very rarely. So the thing is,
But
because
when you
that
tried
was
to do a
breaking
show,
news-
a
Yeah.
show that was good news,
Yeah.
you didn't get one phone call. We got 15 calls the next show.
But you know what's nice about good news is the fact that we could bug each other up and joke around and everything like that, and people do honestly feel that this show needs a sponsor, and we found this sponsor, Howie Silbiger. So
Yeah.
you know what?
Howie Silbiger's been sponsoring this show for the last 19 years, Sheldon.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. So that's good news, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have the high quality show that you come to demand and ask for from all of the people that contribute to the show, and for you to ask the great questions that you do.
It's very true. And it's 19.
And it's because of your sponsors and support.
And our
So thank
longtime
you.
sponsor, Howie Silbiger, 19 years
Yes.
sponsoring the show.
Incredible. Yeah.
Incredible that we have a sponsor for that long, Sheldon.
I'm telling you, and it looks like the hits just keep on coming.
And we're also sponsored by Sheldon's Avatar.
And we're also out of time.
Oh, we are. You're right. All right. Thank you
Great
so much.
content.
Thank you so much, Sheldon, for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care of yourself, buddy, and have a great evening and a great week.
You too. And I just want to thank everybody else, everybody watching. Thank you for watching. And we'll be back. I will be back on Tuesday. Tuesday we'll do. I think I'll do a.
Good news show.
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to do a Howie Silbiger show on Tuesday, and then at midnight we'll do a political hitman in Israel.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that's what I'm thinking. So keep an eye on the Howie Silbiger show page, where I'll be announcing if we'll be on Tuesday or not.
Sounds
So
good.
that'll happen on the Howie Silbiger show page. So from me and Sheldon, and you and me and you and him and Sheldon's avatar, we wish you
Oh, shut up.
Sheldon's avatar that has hair.
I'm
Eh,
gonna look at an avatar for you, buddy. I'm gonna look up an avatar. I'm gonna send one to you.
I want to wish Sheldon a very happy birthday. His birthday's on Tuesday, so
Thank you.
let's
Thank
wish Sheldon a very happy 96th birthday.
you. Thank you very much. Happy 61st birthday.
Yes, Sheldon is
61st birthday.
Sheldon is
Yep.
61 years. Could you believe Sheldon is 61 years old?
I can't believe I'm 61.
When I met Sheldon, he was younger than I am right now.
Oh, okay. I'd like to see how that's possible, but okay.
What? When I met you,
Yes.
you were younger than I am right now.
Yes.
You were younger than I am right now. I was younger than I am right now too.
I was younger than I was then.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you were younger than I am now.
Howie, say goodnight, everybody.
And I was younger than I am now.
Okay, everybody, take care. Have a great week.
Hey,
and,
look.
Take care, everybody.
And
Have
now-
a good evening.
Sheldon was a young man then, and now he's an old man.
And I wonder why I'm old. I wonder why I have gray hair. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, who I'm on the other side with.
All right, everyone, have a great one. We'll see you on Tuesday.
Take care, everyone. Bye.